Why are you always judging me for the amount of gum I chew?
Because it's a lot.
Pack a day keeps the doctor away. Hey guys, welcome. Hey guys, welcome to another vlog. Just gonna do a real quick scouting trip behind my aunt and uncle's house that I've actually never stepped foot in this area, and honestly didn't really realize that their property butted up to this pretty big piece of public ground here just outside of town, real close to town actually. It's a hilly, it's definitely going to be a hill country type scouting evening. That's not the most ideal today because it's 91 degrees and I was sweating walking out to the truck to go over here. So oh well, got some water. I'm gonna probably put a couple trail cameras out if I find a good place to do so, and see what's living back there. I could see there being a giant back in these hills, to be honest with you. I don't think a lot of people get back in there. I just jumped a deer down in here. I haven't walked, I don't know, maybe 30 yards into the woods here, right behind my aunt's house. Came down here in the creek to see if I could find any good tracks, and by golly, there's a nice track down in here. So, there's definitely a buck living in here. Real nice heavy creek that runs through at least the bottom portion of this property. So you can see in this woods here, it's been logged or clear cutted fairly recently. So this is just one big bedding area for deer. First impressions, it's way thicker in here than what I had anticipated it being. Didn't realize they logged it back here, so it's pretty thick. But honestly, there's more deer sign in here than what I thought there was going to be. That's probably due to the amount of thick cover that's in here. So I'm going to find a good place to put a trail camera. It's a really good ridge right here. It looks like deer use a lot. It goes down, comes up here from the top, and then comes down into that bedding area. So probably gonna put one right here somewhere. See what's using this ridge, or rather what's using this bedding area. Turkeys in here. Here's something I really didn't want to see. There's a road back here for some reason. So I'm not very far off that road up there, but you can see there's a pretty good rub on that tree right there. It looks like this one's been rubbed in the past, down in here, but it doesn't look real fresh from last year or anything. I think what that road was actually probably from when they logged this place. They probably built a road back up in here. So down in this bottom, a lot of times you'll find a lot of deer sign. Because you can see here, like, there's a ridge that goes up there, there's one that comes down through here, there's one that comes down through here, and there's one that comes down from there. So deer definitely come through here, but the only downside about hunting down here in these low spots is your wind is very unpredictable. You'll have a lot of swirling because, you know, wind is going to come. Let's say it's blowing from, we'll just say the west, right? Coming down this holler. Well, it's going to hit, coming here from the west, it's going to bounce off these different ridges and kind of swirl in here. So a lot of times that's why deer like it down in these low valleys, but it's extremely hard to hunt them down in here because your wind's very inconsistent. That's why it's better to try to be up top where the deer you know, will travel, because you can have a little more predictable wind in hill country. I know it's kind of hard to see in the video, and it's way steeper than what it actually looks in the video. But there's a big peak up here in the middle of this woods, and I'm gonna try to get up to that peak and kind of walk 2/3 on that top of that ridge up there to see if I can find a good place where a buck's been bedded. Sorry, I'm out of breath. Woo! So I'm on the back side of this peak up here now. I'm kind of walking about 2/3 down the ridge line, and there's just a beat path 2/3 down all the way down through here, and then back down to that ridge. So they definitely are traveling through here. I'm always hesitant to put up cameras. You kind of only have two, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like, what if I find a better spot? What if I find a better spot? I already found one spot that I wanted to put one up that was literally right behind my aunt and uncle's house. And I'm not going to put one up yet. I'll throw one up on the way back if I want to put one there, if I still have one in my pack. So probably going to tell you the same thing with this spot. I'm probably just going to keep going and think about putting one up here. I'm going to go head down into this bottom down here where all these ridges kind of come together. There's a pretty good saddle right there on that ridge that looked okay. Wasn't as much deer movement there as I had thought, but definitely on top of this ridge, 2/3 up there, a really good deer path beating around that ridge. So I'm on a deer trail right now that leads out to those private crop fields, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow this deer trail, what I assume is up this ridge, and kind of figure out where exactly they're staying at up there. There's definitely an old scrape right here, and then a licking branch here above the scrape. Found my first sign of a hunter. There's a ladder sitting in that tree right there. It's in an okay spot, to be honest with you, but it's just kind of out in the open in the look like the thinnest part of the woods where he could see a long ways. So more than likely that's going to be a gun hunter, I would assume. Walking up this ridge, you can see a really nice rub on the tree. There's one on either side of this double tree. I'll show you guys a little trick on onX Maps. You can see how you can turn on this tracking feature on onX, and that is really useful to me because sometimes you get turned around in the woods, for one, especially in these big hill country stuff, so you can always get back to where you came from, and plus it's a good reference to see where you've been, to make sure you're not kind of walking over your same tracks over and over again. So I definitely recommend putting on your tracker on onX. It's a great feature. Just going to show you guys, I found a doe bed right here kind of on this ridge, and one way you can really tell a buck from a doe is obviously this is a pretty small bed, but also a doe's back end is going to be much wider than its front end, so a doe's bed will have kind of almost like a triangular shape to it, whereas a buck will be a little more uniform. And oftentimes, a buck will even have a little broader chest, but when they get older and older, you can have that big barrel body. So I'm seeing quite a bit more sign and, I guess trail activity on this particular ridge. And you really got to think, if you look at this ridge, you can see how thick it is down through here. There's a lot of, there's actually some like pines down in there, a lot of this kind of greenbrier stuff. And this has by far been the most active ridge I've seen. Whereas opposed to like this ridge over here, that this ridge runs into, you can see, well, it's hard to see in the video, but it's much less, much more open, much less brush on it. So you're looking for features like that in this hill country, because hill country can get very monotonous. And so you're just looking for something different, like this ridge here. Is a perfect example of why deer would like this particular ridge better than, let's say, one right next door. So if you ask yourself, why you got all these ridges in here, which one do I set up on? Look for one that's different, that if you were trying to hide from something, which one would you come up? And on this same ridge with all the thick stuff, another really good rub. So on my onX, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this ridge and kind of label it as a a active ridge is probably what I'll label it as. I'm at the top of this really steep ridge. It's pretty cool because you can see like a deer path that's just really beat. Again, about 2/3 of the way down the top of that peak, probably all the way around it. I'm gonna follow it this way. So I found a pretty good example of what I think is a buck bed. Got a bunch of pieces of hair in this bed, and then if I sit right here on this bed, lay in here just like the deer would. Look at all that ground you can see down in there. Anything that comes up that ridge, they're going to be able to watch and watch down that way and be able to see. And then I would say on a west wind they would lay here, because the west wind would come over that the top of the ridge. The thermals will be coming up the ridge, and they'll be able to smell in both directions. So and then another thing that gives it away, a rub right there. So a good sign. This is probably the best bed I've found, and you can see it's tucked up a bunch of green briars right behind him. So the way you'd be able to hunt him, I think, is to come in from the side over here somewhere and try to set up on him, and hopefully he comes and skirts around you, or around near you, I guess. So I think I'm gonna put a camera up here somewhere. I'm gonna go ahead and put it up in this little tree you see right here that I got my my bee stick on, and then put it up there pretty high so nobody can steal it, because I've had awful luck, as you guys know, this year with cameras getting stolen. And then that bed's about maybe 10 yards away from the camera. So it'll be interesting to see. I may come back here in about a month or maybe 6 weeks and see what's on it. So I'm gonna change the date and stuff on here real quick though. Now I'm going to go up into this bed and see if I think the camera's positioned properly. So that camera's right there, and the bed is, it looks like it's to be facing directly at the bed. I don't know if that's too far for it to pick it up. I don't think it is, but we'll see. I don't really have a better tree to put it in where the deer wouldn't detect it right away, I don't think. So we're gonna give that a try. Alrighty, I got her marked on my Onyx, and moving on back to the house. I'm probably gonna put the second trail camera up right behind my aunt and uncle's house, just because honestly I saw a really nice buck track there, and if there is one living there, that's gonna be my easiest spot to hunt. So gonna make my way that way. Got a little walk ahead of me. Another project I'm thinking about doing, or an experiment, is making a mock rub behind my house and taking a picture of it every week to see how it ages, because sometimes it's hard to read on how old a rub is in the woods. I don't know if some of these ones I'm seeing, they look old to me, but maybe trees heal up faster than what you think. I don't know. Maybe something I try and share with you guys. Definitely an old scrape here with a licking branch. Maybe a place I put my trail camera, I don't know yet. So there's a real good path coming up through this dry creek. A lot of times whenever I'm putting the trail cameras, I almost like to set them up to get cool pictures, and I think this would be a cool picture. Pretty much right there is what you would see if a deer would walk in front of this camera. So now, when those deer are walking through this ditch, right there, they'll get a picture taken of them. Trail camera I just put up is right over there in that creek, and I got into this fern area, and you can see there's this huge bed in these ferns. So pretty neat. I don't know if it's a buck bed or not, but it could be. A lot of times bucks will come into these. This is almost inside of a little housing addition back here. And if those deer figure out that this is a safe area for them, they'll have no problem coming back in here and hiding. So it would not surprise me if there's a nice deer living right here. So guys, I am officially almost back to the house now. So found some decent stuff back in here. Some good tracks, which is always a good thing. Tracks kind of tell the story. There's a big deer typically don't make a small track. So anytime you see a big buck track, puts a smile on your face. Put up a couple cameras. One's kind of a experimental deal. We'll kind of put it over a hill country bed, because that's probably the type of terrain that I struggle with the most, and I think most people do, especially starting out. So maybe that'll help me get some intel on how those bucks are using that bed. If it is a buck bed, I have a good feeling it is. And then I put the trail camera there on the creek right behind my aunt and uncle's house. See if we're getting any decent deer close to the road, so I don't have to drag a stupid deer a mile and a half from the bottom of Hell's Canyon. So thanks for tagging along with me on this vlog, guys. Gonna keep this thing rolling all through season, and hopefully make something out of it to where I can share videos with you guys all the time. So guys, take her easy.